Let's talk a little bit about the project system. Basically, all of your development will be done in the IDE based on a project. And you can see here there's a listing of a series of folders that have the top-level project descriptions. We can see here background programs, CPLCs, libraries, real-time routines. There's a configuration folder, documentation folder. So there's a number of these folders that represent the project in your Power PMAC. We'll start looking at some of the details of this project system shortly. But when you download your project through the IDE, you right-click on the top-level name, which is the upper-level project name, and then you build and download all programs. If you have no C code that you're using, you can just download all programs because you're downloading just script programs. Basically, the project, it gets loaded into active memory in a directory that we call var ftp user flash. This is on the in Power. This is one of Power PMAC's directories in its directory structure. When you type a save command in Power PMAC, then it gets saved to the non-volatile flash memory in the OPT PPMAC user flash directories, which are on the inside of the flash folders. It's inside of the flash utility. So there is the volatile RAM side of Power PMAC, which starts under var ftp, and then there's the non-volatile in flash, which is under the OPT PPMAC side of PMAC's directory structure. Your previous 5 projects are saved in the user flash, and they'll be renamed as user flash 1 through user flash .5. So these will be the most, every time you type a save, it will then keep a backup of what your previous project was. So let's say something goes drastically wrong in your current version of your project, then you can navigate into the directory structure and then rename the file back to the regular user flash directory, and then it will start running out of that directory. There's a feature in the IDE that does this automatically for you. And then projects that are saved in flash memory on a power-up or a reset are automatically loaded from the flash into the user RAM, into the volatile user RAM. So PMAC is always running its current, whatever that you currently do in a PMAC up until the point of typing a save is always in this volatile RAM memory. It is then saved into the user flash, but it's still running out of the volatile RAM memory. Now, there's some things to be considered in using the IDE. I'm just going to pop over here quickly to the IDE, and let me just, some of the features that the IDE has. I'm going to go in to Window, and I'm going to reset the window layout so I get a standard Windows layout. File, and I'm going to create a new project, Power PMAC project. And we can see that directory structure. Now, I currently don't have a project loaded in my Power PMAC. So we can see I have a configuration folder. And in the configuration folder is where you would have a backup of your static Power PMAC configuration. In other words, the setup of all your motors, the setup of all your feedback devices, all of the things that would be considered part of the non-transient part of your project. Motor setup, EtherCAT setup, all of those things. Motion programs, PLCs, C programs, those are part of their individual language folders. We have a C language folder that has all of the C features in Power PMAC. And then there's a script language folder that has motion programs, PLCs, kinematic routines, and any libraries, any subroutines that you may have created that you can put in a library format. There's a section in here called Global Includes where you can set up global definitions. I would strongly recommend not keeping your static Power PMAC configurations in global header files. I would always recommend keeping your Power PMAC configurations in the configuration folder. That was the design of the IDE, was to keep your static Power PMAC configuration in the configuration folder. Some of the things that you can put in the global header files, though, would be global M variable definitions, any global pound defines. You may have created your own macro names to be used in your Power PMAC script files and your script PLCs and your script motion programs. That is the place where you would want to keep those. You could consider also keeping axis definition statements for the various coordinate systems where you're going to name an axis or you're going to place an axis name for a motor. There are several ways that this can be done in Power PMAC, and we'll talk a little bit about the different methods and schemes that you can do this as we go through the class. But as you configure your system settings one at a time, you're going to generate a configuration folder. There is always an overall configuration folder or configuration file. Every time you type a save command, this file called pp_save.cfg, this contains all of your static Power PMAC settings in one single file. Some of the other files in the configuration folder, there's one called pp_custom_save.cfg. This is an automatically generated file when you select, when you do a save command. There is a structure file that has all of the things that you want to back up. That is contained in pp_custom_save.tpl. .tpl files are basically a set of script commands that tells what Power PMAC is going to upload, what Power PMAC is going to save. There is one called pp_save.tpl, which is our generated TPL file, which tells us to save everything in Power PMAC. You may want to have a specialty configuration file that saves only certain components. Maybe you just want to save the encoder conversion table, or you just want to save a few motors that you want to possibly redistribute into various other systems. You may have a series of projects that from machine to machine there are slight differences, so you could maintain these in custom save backup files. So for example, in the custom save TPL, one of the commands that you can put in there is there's a backup command, and then backup of different types of structures, motor structures, gate structures would show up in this TPL file. The main command used in this TPL file is called backup. Once I've talked a little bit more about structures in Power PMAC, we'll go back and we will revisit some of the details of what's going on behind the scenes in the IDE here with the saves and the configuration folders. In the configuration folder, there is some functionality as to what happens whenever you download your project. So ppdisable.txt, this is the first file that is parsed and executed when you do a complete download of all programs or a complete build and download of all programs. And so what this file is designed to do, it's designed to let you disable certain things in Power PMAC first before it completely executes everything in the download. If we just pop over to the executive here and take a look at that, ppdisable.txt, we can see one of the things that we do is we disable all PLCs and then we clear all buffers. So basically, we sort of empty out what's currently in the Power PMAC, disabling the PLCs first and then empty them out in preparation to re-download all of these files back to the PMAC. Notice we have commented out a command that will allow us to kill all motors currently in Power PMAC. During a download, you could maintain the the power on sense of your motors without having to kill them. That's not required. It might be strongly suggested in many cases, depending on the complexity of your application or your project. Along with pp disable.txt, there's pp inc disable, incremental disable. So when you do an incremental download, an incremental download is when you download one of the script programs after having fully downloaded your project once during any session in the IDE. You can incrementally download just a script PLC or a script motion program. Let's say you're continually changing a motion program. So you're changing it over and over and you're honing it in, or the same thing with the PLC. You can just download that PLC or script motion program. A right mouse click would give you a download this program only once I've downloaded the complete So once I've done a complete build and download, the next time around that I go into those script programs, I'll be allowed to just download that script program by itself. Now when I go back, I now have the download the selected files. So I'm allowed to what's called an incremental download. And the pp inc disable has the same function as the pp disable, but it's only during incremental downloads. So right now it's blank since you're downloading only one file. If there's special things that you want to do, for example, in your particular system, your particular environment, your project, your machine, you may want to disable certain PLCs before downloading anything to the power, or you may want to kill certain motors before downloading anything to the Power PMAC. That can be added in incremental disable, in pp inc disable. Two other files, pp startup.txt and pp inc startup.txt. Basically what these are is after the complete build and download or after the incremental download, these are commands that are parsed and executed at the end of the download. So pp startup is usually the one that will start your PLCs running after a complete download. pp startup is also run every time the Power PMAC does a reset or a power up. It's the last thing that is done in transferring all of Power PMAC's files from the flash into active memory. Once that is all done, everything's been transferred over, then pp startup is executed, which for many people will have something like enable PLC 1 to start your first PLC. We'll be going everything that I've talked about right now. We will be addressing these topics again more than once throughout class. So don't feel that this is a one-time discussion of this topic. We will be discussing these topics over again several times throughout class.